Hi, I'm Carlos Apene,
And I'm Dana Arnett.
and this is Wicked Marketing. So today we're going to continue on a topic that we were starting to talk about in the last episode, but we're going to go deeper into it, which is where you should be placing your marketing, whether it's organic or paid. As we said before, organic is are techniques that you can put in place that you don't necessarily have to pay for. You could do them yourself. It Some of the content that you use for it, you may have to pay for if you don't have it.
But minimal.
But it's minimal. Specifically today.
You know what? Can I interrupt a second?
Yeah.
I want to say something because I think it helps people a little bit. I go to many conferences, and there's a lot of startups at these conferences, and they will stand in line and they will ask a question of whoever's on stage. Usually marketer is always on stage at one of these events. And they will say, where do I start? Do I have to do Facebook, Instagram, Facebook Live? Do I have to do all this stuff because it's really overwhelming me? And what is the thinking always that we always talk about, Carlos, is we talk about it has to start with a strategy and it has to start with understanding your audience.
Yeah. So where do I start? I love that question. Well, where do you want to start? And here's why that is relevant, right? Because each one of the social networks you should treat as a person, right?
Yeah.
And that person has things that they like to do, things that they don't like to do, things that they're interested in. They have emotions, they have passions, they have things that they engage with and things that they don't. So it really depends on you. Who are you trying to talk to? What person are you trying to reach? That's how you determine where you need to start. So if I have a brand that is my strategy is to initially focus on people that are 18 to 35, or maybe younger than 18 to 35.
Female 18 to 35.
Female 18 to 35. Then I need to determine, step one is where are females 18 to 35? Where are they consuming content, right? So places like Snapchat, big on 18 to 35. Some of them may be on Pinterest as well, very visual medium. So you start there, and then you can narrow it down even further.
Yes.
Is it 18 to 35 women that are interested in sportswear? Then you determine where are 18 to 35 women that are interested in sportswear.
Or it's a service that you're selling for, you're trying to talk about, you're a life coach. Where are those people? If you're wanting to get a younger demographic, where do they hang out that might be interested in that?
And that's something that you can develop a strategy behind, right? So you can say, I'm going to put, even if you have $100 that you're going to spend in advertising, I'm going to put that money into the specific network, or I'm going to put my efforts, even if you're not spending any money, I'm going to put my efforts into this specific network for 90 days at a minimum.
Absolutely.
180 days is the mostly recommended because it does take time to get some traction behind it. Now, what is important, in particular, if we're to focus on digital marketing, because it is the place where a lot of people want to start nowadays, is that people forget that what's important is consistency and persistency.
Absolutely.
You can't just say, I'm going to put up one post a week.
Right.
On the social network.
Well, and consistency and persistency, starting with your knowing what your message is and being consistent and persistent on that platform.
That message. And also remembering that people are going on those platforms to engage, not to get pitched to.
Don't sell.
Don't sell, right? Unless you're doing ads, and then you can sell
advertising
in the
those
ads.
shoes.
But when you're talking about your organic social strategy, you have to have a strategy around engagement. Like, what is it about my brand that I can do that brings value to people, that drives a conversation? Social networks are called social networks because they're social. They're not there for you to send your message out there into the universe and not get anybody to engage with it.
It's all about engagement.
It's all about engagement. So what is it that you're doing that can drive a conversation? What is it about the service that you're providing that can drive a conversation? And how do you create content around that that is feasible, that you can engage with, and that you as a brand are able to post it on a consistent and persistent manner?
You know, it would be good, I think, we wrote a book called, shameless plug, but called Influence Over Coffee. And one of the things that people have appreciated when they've bought and read the book or audiobook, and they have talked about, when we talk about the social platforms and what specifically each one is for. And Carlos is really good about explaining each of the platforms and what's appropriate and why, who comes to those platforms and why.
Yeah, and the thing I think that is the biggest theme of the book, because it's called Influence Over Coffee, because it deals with the influencer craze that has sort of grown into, everyone knows about influencers nowadays in the marketplace. But the most important thing that is a theme across the entire book is trust. Mm-hmm. The ability to build trust, to hold trust from people. And once you're able to create trust in a brand, then you get all the benefits of it, right? And those benefits we'll go into in another podcast, like brand lift, meaning people lifting your brand by reposting your. Exactly. That's a simple brand lift, right? People repost your post and they talk about how great your product is. That's brand lift at its simplest form. We'll go deeper into it on another podcast. So what you're looking for is to build trust. And how do you build trust with people in a social network? Mm-hmm. If you want to talk about your content strategy, how do you drive a conversation that builds trust in your brand? By providing value.
Exactly.
So determining what is the value that you can provide into your own industry. So if I am a service, like Dana was saying, where I'm trying to coach people, right, at an earlier age, 18 to 35, then what elements of value can you provide to those people so they start building trust and engagement with your brand? As a coach, you may want to give positive quotes or tips on how to improve yourself. People tend to forget, because we live so close to the product that we're selling or marketing, we tend to forget that the basics,
the simple
pieces of that product are relevant to most people outside.
You know, my goddaughter Harmony was over, and she's 19. I had lunch with her this weekend, and she was talking about, for the first time being in college, about what she wanted to do next and about business school and maybe going into homeopathy. And she's like, I just don't know what to do. And I was thinking, if somebody was a business life coach in that market, exact market that you're talking, 18 to 34, that, boy, speaking to her, because she's like, I'm going to these things and I'm inspired by these women business owners. And think if that was marketed to her, she's in a place of inspiration and discovery, and you were marketing your service to somebody like her, how effective that could be if you were inside her brain.
And it's funny because the moment that you say marketing, it sounds already like selling.
Selly.
Right?
It is selly, but it's not sexy.
It is, but that's a negative connotation that's been put on marketing, because the purpose of marketing is to drive connection,
right?
To drive brand awareness, to drive engagement,
right?
So it's not to sell,
right?
So the selling should happen out of that trust.
Yes.
In the brand. The selling should happen out of the connection
exactly.
with the brand. The selling should happen out of the engagement with the brand, which are all going to be elements of driving my brand recall of that brand. Right. When I need my brain to pull out that brand the moment that I have the intent to engage with it.
Yes.
So as you guys can see, we start building on why intent, brand recall, engagement. All of these pieces go hand in hand in helping you build a brand that people will want to be a part of. So if we take a step back then and we think about, where would I want to start?
Right, those platforms.
You look at the platforms. You look at the audience that you're trying to reach. You develop a hypothesis that these are the people that I think, because of how I perceive my brand, are going to connect the best with my brand. You start creating content. So one of the things that people get scared of is by the content creation,
Right.
right? Will I have the time to be able to post all these things that you're saying that I
Right.
have to post? Will I have the time to engage with people? Here's why it is important to make the time. There are tools out there. One of the most famous ones is called Hootsuite, Hoot Suite, that will allow you to schedule your posts way in advance.
Create and
So
schedule. Yes.
for some of our smaller clients, like we have a woman in New York that is in the health and fitness space, but from a eating habits perspective.
Yeah, wellness in that way, yeah.
Wellness and eating habits perspective. I said to her that all she really needed to do was set an hour aside every Saturday, right? Anybody can do that, and come up with the content that she's going to post for the week. We have a specific strategy behind her content. And then she guarantees that she at least has that one post per day or two posts per day
Right.
that go with her brand that are scheduled.
You know, it's so great because it is something that with time that you can learn to do, and looking at boards and things on Instagram, for example. And then there's also clients that we have that are, you know, mid-sized businesses that are too busy, too much, to whatever, and they hire us. And then we find we use a social media expert within our team that fits their brand, and they create, and then the person, the client just signs off on them, and then we handle all the posting. So that's another level once they've gotten, gotten business and consistent business.
And it doesn't matter what your business size is, you still have to have a strategy to
Yes.
reach people. Even if you're reaching, because you're larger, you're reaching multiple audiences
Yes.
on multiple social networks.
Yes.
The messaging for each one of those audiences needs to be tailored to that specific audience.
Exactly.
The targeting needs to be tailored to that specific audience, and then the social networks in which it's being delivered needs to be tailored. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? So there's the social mediums that are about engagement. There's the social mediums that are about visuals. There's the social mediums that are about audio. There's the social mediums that are about video.
Right.
So you have to understand each one of them and how they relate. For example, Facebook. Facebook is an emotional social medium about engagement.
Think about what you see on Facebook or what you post or how you connect, and it's family and it's friends and it's support when things are hard and sharing good things, and we all kind of peek into each other's lives in an emotional way.
And I think that's the key, the peaking,
Peeking.
right? So Facebook has made it easy for us to stay in touch emotionally with our
Yes.
family and friends without having to talk to them.
That's right. Well, and how many times do you go to lunch with somebody, you haven't seen them in a year, but you're almost like you can't even go back and talk about it because you know their lives because you've been watching each other on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the funny thing is that Facebook has become a medium for the older demographic now, but the younger demographic still sneaks in.
We're not
go-
guessing that. We actually have
We
data.
actually have data. Yeah, they go in and they look at it. They just don't want to be seen.
Or
on it.
tell anybody, or God forbid, let their parents know
But-
that they looked.
Yeah, they're still connecting through it. Then you have places like Instagram
Right.
that are all about beautiful visuals,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where you see all these people using filters on their photography
Yes.
because it's all beautiful.
It's not, I asked my goddaughter again about what she's using currently. I always check in with her every year and see what she's using, and she's still Instagram and Snapchat. And she goes, Instagram, you're putting it out there as if your life is the best life ever. She doesn't have a brand. She's 19 in college, but as if you have the best life to make your friends jealous and to, to show this big, sexy thing. So she understands what these are for. And then Snapchat, it's in and out very quickly.
So taking it back to Instagram, because it's all about beauty
Yes.
and all about idealism, right? The ideal life, the ideal scenario, the ideal location. It's a great place for products
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
because products are aspirational,
Yes.
right? So I really want those beautiful shoes. I really want that beautiful notebook. I really want
That
those
necklace.
amazing jeans. It's all going to be seen as a higher level.
High end, for sure.
High end, higher level, as long as you're able to portray your product in that way. So Instagram has been very smart in developing the shoppable
Yes.
posts, right? So now, which is something that people are not really taking advantage of.
They're
because
just really just kind of becoming aware of
they're
the shoppable
yeah, but they've
posts.
been around for a little bit. You have the ability now to make shoppable posts, and that's part of what we help our clients do.
Yes.
Set up their accounts so that they can do these sort of things. because
Maximize.
maximize, and it's the perfect medium to get some organic traction
Absolutely.
behind the post that you're putting out
And,
there.
and really, it's not just it's the post, but then it's also and that's the expert part is the hashtags. That's how you're going to bring people.
Yeah,
But yes,
so-
the pretty of
and
Instagram.
then you start seeing a return on your investment, and then it
Exactly.
makes sense
Right.
that I'm spending that hour on Saturday and then those few minutes every day of the week
Right.
responding to people,
Yes.
because you start seeing the value of it. Another piece of value that people forget about social networks is that they're a great source of research.
Mm-hmm.
So to tell a quick story here, we had a client that was in the exercise industry and sold yoga pants. And as part of their strategy, they used Instagram ads to get their yoga pants out there. And throughout Instagram and Facebook, we started seeing a thread of comments from people asking why they didn't have certain sizes.
Right, extra large for big women. Yes, yoga pants
bigger
for large women.
So extra, extra large, extra, extra, extra large. And the client was like, well, why?
We don't sell those. We
We
sell
don't-
size twos.
We sell size 2 and we sell size 4. Like, why would we need to?
and we said, you better listen.
We said, exactly. So we said, you better listen. And
They sourced large plus size yoga pants, and it took them a while to get them in, but they responded saying, "We hear you. We're getting them," which kept them engaged.
it kept them engaged. It kept them following them.
Yes.
And when they launched, it grew their business by 40%.
Oh, and they sold out in the first big batch of yoga pants. They sold out, I believe it was in 30 or 45 days. It was
Yeah.
very, very quick. So they discovered a market, and then we obviously advertised to that market. And it was, who knows? That's how you don't kind of know your business. But if you listen to who's engaging with you and what they're saying, you have an opportunity to grow even further or create additional
so then
sources
that
of
hour
revenue.
a week starts sounding
Yes,
a
it does.
little
It
bit
sounds
more
quite worth it,
feasible,
doesn't
right?
it, Carlos?
Yes. So I think then you look at your brand, you look at the social network it's going to be on, or search engine, because people tend to forget that YouTube is still the second largest search engine
Yes.
in the world. Even though it is a social network, it is also a search engine. That's why it's so unique. And how you are going to reach the audience that you want to reach, how you want your message to be received, how you craft that message to fit what the social network is all about, so that then you can start gaining the benefits of it, the followers,
Yes.
the engagement, the research out of it, and the ROI that
For
will
sure.
make it worth your time going on those social networks.
Absolutely. And we could talk about what those social networks, the real detail of each of them, and as we target those and why. We can talk about that in another podcast. But I hope you've enjoyed listening to us and found some value or some clues and some tips of things that you can do. And
Thank you for joining us today.
thank you for joining us. And if you want to, we'd love it if you'd follow us on iTunes and make sure you subscribe. And if you have any things that you'd like us to know about, please send us some questions, and we will happily answer them on the next podcast. Thanks so much.